All right, exercise 8C. Oh, sorry. With 8C, now that you've learned how to do tally tables and then make a frequency table out of that, sometimes the information may be too large that even if you're looking at a frequency table, it's still confusing. So we like to use an illustrative tool to see that. So when you're doing business deals or whatnot, that's usually what they refer to. Graphs, trends, things that are over years rather than a small time frame. So the graph tells us more information as well on a glance. The frequency table, on the other hand, tells us the exact detail. So over here, this is hard to tell what this number represents here. So if I asked you, how many people got 0? That's hard to tell. But you can tell me which one was the largest one. You can say 3 was the most popular one, right? So looking at it at a glance, we can tell. But here, I can tell you exactly how many got 0. I got 57. That's the benefit of having frequency tallies. You can change this into percentages. Here, you can't, but you can get a lot of information from a graphical sense, okay? So your job today is then to work on how do I transfer a table, a frequency table, into a graph. Well, everything is almost exactly the same as what you've done with bar graphs in the past. The only difference is, have you noticed down here that your data is centered? Can you see that? Okay, so usually we do centered because that also means that you can do a continuous data, meaning it could be a range. Say if I said that if you are between 150 to 160 centimeters tall, you're falling in this category. 170 to 180 will fall into this category. That's why we have this sort of length. Okay, so we normally put our data in the center. So make sure that when you're doing your data, please do it in the center of each bar. Do not do this. Do not do 1 and then draw it like that. And then, sorry, let me do that again. Don't do this. I don't want to see on each N that it's 4 like that, okay? Because then people will say, is the 3 for this graph or is it for this graph? We don't know. That's why it's important to put it in the center, okay? So here we go. Let's do a graph. What do you need? You always have to label your vertical axis. People need to know what it's representing. Now, in our case, it's going to be frequency all the time. Frequency is on your vertical axis, which is your y-axis. And then what you're measuring is on your x-axis, okay? So having a look at each one of these example graphs here, you see the benefit of each one. You can sort of look at a glance and tell me which one's the most popular, which one is the least popular, okay? Now, let's do an example. And I'm only going to do one example, and then that is it for 8C. So 8C is learning how to reconstruct a table into a graph. So here we've got 2 frequency tables. One, which is nice and easy. It's only 0, 1, 2, 3. Whilst if you have a look at the second one, notice it's an interval. 0 to 99, 100 to 199, 200 to 299. Okay? So, same drill. I want you to be using a ruler. If you're doing a graph, I want you to do a ruler. Whoops. Use a ruler. Here we go. I'm going to do it again. We're going to do a construct a table with a graph. Here we go. I've got my graph. You need to label the X and Y axes. So I want to see frequency on one side. And then this case is number of siblings. Number of siblings. Okay, so I've got my frequency. I've got my number of siblings. I can see that I've got 0, 1, 2, and 3. So remember, I'm going to label them in the center. 0, 1, 2, and 3. That's my number of siblings. When you're doing this, it matters that you rule it to scale. Okay, now both axes don't have to be the same scale, but if you're doing the frequency table, make sure that the vertical axes are all according to scale. So use a ruler. Okay, or in my case, I've got these lines here. If you're using one of those grid exercise books, you can use the grid to then draw out your axes. But I can see that the smallest number I can have is a 2, and the largest number I can have is a 20. Okay, and you can go up by 2s if you want now. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. You don't have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way to 20. Might take too long. So I probably do counting in 2. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and then 20. And see how I'm doing it? In my case, I'm just doing the center of each of these cubes. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I just did the centers and I went up by 2s. 2s was easier to go up by for me. Okay, so you need to calculate the scale. And it doesn't matter which scale you go with. It's not wrong as long as you keep it all consistent. Okay, so I've got my 2s. And then each one, here we go, using a ruler. So in my year 12s, I often tell them they must use a ruler, and the examiners will make sure that you have to use a ruler as well. At this point, 0, I've got 15, so 15 must be somewhere here in the center. So 15 out and all the way down. So here we go, 90. There we go. So that's 15. Then I go to the next one. 1 has 20. So 20 is up here. I'm just going to move this across. 20. This is 20. Then we've got 2. What is for 2? 2 says 13. So under 13, that's where 13 would roughly be. 13. Here we go. I'm just going to do 90 degrees again. And then lastly, my number 3, I have 2 people. So you can see I'm going to go back to my ruler. And I'm going to do here 2. And I'm done. Okay, so that's what I want to see. I do want to see that when you're putting it into information, looking at this graphically, I can tell 1 is the most popular, least popular is 3 at a glance. Okay, so when you're drawing it, what did I want again? Each and every one of your numbers have to be in the center of each bar. Label your x-axis, label your y-axis, and remember your y-axis is always frequency. And that is exercise 8C. Okay, so 8C, that's what you're doing. What's the difference with B? B, that's an interval. So you will be doing 0 to 99. So 99's here. Next one is 100 to 199. So you can do 100, 200, 300, 400, and it's on a scale. Okay, that's how you would want to do that. All right, I'm going to stop the video there.